So, Justice Perez.
Thank you, Chief. I will take off from the questions of Justice De Castro. I am reading from the petition itself. Number 10, and just the first petition, I think, by Mr. Ocampo. During the campaign period for the 2016 presidential elections, when candidate Rodrigo Duterte publicly announced that he will allow the burial of former President Ferdinand E. Marcos at the Libigan ng mga Bayani. He reiterated this public pronouncement, etc., etc., when he became president without giving details, etc. Number 11, these pronouncements were met with opposition by various sectors, including victims or relatives of human rights, violations of torture, illegal arrest, arbitrary detention, disappearances and summary executions, etc., family members of the thousands who died, etc. In other words, the burial of the president of FM at the Libigan ng mga Bayani was an election issue, more than that, a contested election issue. It so happened that the promiser was elected. And the elected president said that he is implementing the election promise. And as such, there was this oral orders to General Visaya, to the people at the AFP. Pardon my question, but anyone from the counsels for the petitioner, how can the implementation of an election promise of an election president who we cannot convince ourselves otherwise was elected partly, wholly, or in any way connected with the election promise of the burial of FM? What is the effect of that? Is that not a decision by the sovereign people itself of all the issues that you now present before this court? You are going to say that what the electorate voted in favor of, we will now nullify? Yes, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, it is true, Your Honor, that it was a political promise. However, we still forward, Your Honor, that this is not a political question, Your Honor, merely because it was promised during the election. Otherwise, Your Honor, this honorable court will castrate itself, Your Honor, because President Duterte mentioned a lot of promises during the election. He promised to close down Congress. He promised that the entire Manila Bay will be
Excuse me, Mr. Counsel, I'm not talking about the
please.
other promises. I'm talking about the
Yes,
promises of burial of FM.
Well, the one in charge on the procedural issue is Attorney Cortez. However, we would like to state, Your Honor, that merely because it was an election promise and the promiser was elected by the people, yes, does not take out the justiciability of an issue, Your Honor. Especially since the promiser made a lot of promise which can be subject to judicial controversy before this court, Your Honor. So we would like to think, especially since he didn't even get a majority of the votes, Your Honor. So, but even if he did get a majority of the vote, I would not like to think that this court can be bound by the promises of elected public officials on the ground that that was a sovereign act which ousted this court from jurisdiction, Your Honor.
So, we can say that when the president says he is implementing, or he is implementing his election promise, that he is guilty of grave abuse of discretion?
If of course, what he is implementing is antagonistic to the Constitution and the law. But if he is implementing an election promise, say, to increase wages or to have peace process, then of course that is not something that can be questioned.
Can you not say that it was the electorate, the sovereign people itself, which allowed the burial of the president?
I don't think so, Your Honor.
Why and why so?
The issues in that election was that President Duterte wanted to eliminate drugs and crime and corruption.
Okay.
And I think many
Excuse me. There are 20 promises. A voter says, I am voting against Duterte because of this one promise of burial, and I say he's a scoundrel. And so he voted against Duterte. Unfortunately, Duterte won. Okay, this voter said, I am voting for Duterte because of his promise. I love FN. I want him to be buried in the libigan ng mga bayani. So he voted for Duterte. And Duterte won. Good for him. The one who voted for Duterte. This other guy is completely oblivious of this promise. I said, I'm going to vote for Duterte because of the other promises, including his drugs program, etc. I'm not considering as a factor in my selection this promise to bury Marcos. Is that not equivalent to saying that insofar as that issue is concerned, and we cannot deny it was an election issue, as stated by the petitioner, that he gave the president, that elector gave the president the full discretion. You decide whether to bury him or not. I will not say anything. It is not against my will. It is not an abuse of discretion as far as I'm concerned.
Well, Your Honor, the main basis for the decision of this court is on the Constitution, Your Honor, not on election results. So I would like to think, Your Honor, that the promises of the President, whether it is for the closure of Congress or the burial of Marcos or even, I don't know if he promised to close the Supreme Court, Your Honor, but all these are justiciable issues, Your Honor, that cannot be disregarded by this court on the basis that it probably was the reason why people voted for him, Your Honor, please.
And we will disregard the very basic proposition that it is the sovereign Filipino people who ratify this constitution. In fact, Justice De Castro said there is no established body or agency who can determine who is a hero or who is not. I will follow that up and say that not an edict or a fiat by the Supreme Court, the legislator or the president can say whether this person is a hero or not. It is for the general public with a general acceptance of the fact of one being a hero that establishes that person as a hero. It is not left to anybody. And I think I say this may include the Supreme Court even. Okay, it's not a hero. It's worthy of emulation or deserving of national esteem. Can the Supreme Court rule that Marcos is not deserving of national esteem, or he is not public esteem?
Yes, Your Honor. If we are able to convince the court that the Constitution's framework, Your Honor, as argued by Attorney Gutierrez, is actually anti-martial law, anti-dictatorial abuse, and pro-human rights, we'll try to convince the court that the various laws, the RA 289 and even Republic Act 10863, the Marcos Reparation Acts, and of course Supreme Court decision. I just quoted the Manglapos where this honorable court said, well, he was a dictator for 20 years and he wrought havoc on the economy for 20 years. I think all this, Your Honor, the history, this can be taken judicial notice of by this honorable court, Your Honor, and that will already provide the standard on who deserves esteem and recognition and the emulation, especially emulation, Your Honor.
And you are saying that those standards determined several decades ago is a permanent standard that cannot be changed. May I recite what I think was submitted by the Heritage Commission. A hero, I am reading from the petitioner's submission, is part of the people's expression. But the process of a people's internalization of a hero's life and works takes time, with the youth forming part of the internalization. Are you submitting that what was determined or the determination of the past must be the same determination today? And I link this to the what I said a while ago, the result of the elections. Well, the vote for Bongbong, of course, he lost. But you say public, Steve. What consists of the public? All the petitioners? What about all the people from Ilocos? What about the other people who say that Marcos is that I heard some remark a while ago that and the youth are starting to lose sight of what Marcos has done in the past. You prevent the youth from doing so. You prevent the future generation from having their own perception of what history is and saying, this is the standard. Follow this because this is a standard for all time. What is history? History is a continuing evolution. I do not have perhaps the scholastic background to support this, but this is just a gut feel. History is not made by one generation.
Yes, Your Honor. Well, the definition of esteem or worth, the definition of a hero, probably, Your Honor, to clarify even Justice De Castro's question, is found in the law. At least in this case, the definition of a hero under Republic Act 289 is one who deserves emulation and a source of inspiration. So, in that case, Your Honor, the whether or not
Excuse me, Mr. Counsel.
Thank you.
You're quoting the law. I'm saying who is that person who deserves emulation? Yes, it is stated in the law. I'm saying, my question is, who is that person which is referred to by the law? It's not the provision of the law.
Yes, Your Honor. The presidents, the patriots, and the national heroes are qualified. That they are the ones who are worthy of being interred in the pantheon, Your Honor. But however, they're qualified to be worthy of esteem and emulation. And standards may change, but as of now, the standard is there, Your Honor, and a mere directive from the AFP regulation cannot amend the standard found in law, Your Honor.
I think that we have both expressed what is in our minds. Thank you, Mr.
Yes,
Counsel.
maraming salamat po.
We will have a break for 1 hour. We request the parties and their counsels to please